What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be diving into the MTG Arena news. I've been off for the past couple weeks from posting any MTG Arena content, and I'm going to be kind of going over the news that we've gotten over the past week or so since I've last really posted. The first and foremost thing up on the list of the news is going to be the MTG World Championships that happened this past weekend on the Magic channel on Twitch, as well as it was an in-person event that was, I believe, part of the Magic 30 event that happened this weekend in Vegas. It was kind of interesting, the fact that it was in person where people were playing physically there. On top of that, though, they were still using the Arena client to play the games of Magic, which is definitely unique, though I didn't mind it too much, though sometimes I do think the way they view and position the stream of the World Championships gets a little odd, just because they always cut off the player at the top and then you only see the one side of the board. But still, nonetheless, it was definitely a very interesting event overall. They played Standard, they played Draft, and they played Explorer, which was definitely quite interesting. I do think it's nice to see some Explorer love, just because I feel like still, it's since they're still in the process of kind of working up Explorer as a format as a whole to get it close to Pioneer. I feel like not as many people are really covering that as much, but definitely cool to see what people brought. For Standard purposes, even though Meathook Massacre is gone, there was still a ton of Esper midrange. It was definitely the most dominant deck. I think that literally took up majority of the field, and then there was I would say a handful of decks that were non-meta decks. I think there was two Grixis mid-range decks, a couple. There was one Izzet deck, I think a Delver deck and stuff like that. But still, nonetheless, I do think overall it shows kind of where people think in at least tournament play where the power is. But still, I do think those outlier decks actually were good. The only downside is because they kind of rotate through the events before they get to the top four and actually do the finals, is that there was still a lot of Esper midrange technically at the top, in the top four, even though it may have not been the most dominant deck of Standard over the weekend, because I do think it was one of the Delver decks was pretty good, and I think and then the Grixis deck was actually pretty good before they moved over to Explorer before the top four. So definitely still kind of interesting. I would say, if you're someone who follows coverage and you're like, oh, well, Esper midrange was kind of like the top deck, I would say, buyer beware when it comes to maybe building the decks that you saw at Worlds, just because people probably tweak them for the matchups they were expecting to face at Worlds, rather than, build them to kind of face, in general, a bunch of various decks that you would normally see in a queue. The other thing, too, is if you're a best of one player, the decks are tuned for best of three, because you are being able to sideboard in between games. So that's the one thing I would say to take away if you are someone who likes to, check out the World's decks. But I would say you probably have to make some adjustments based on what the Standard meta is at the time you decide to play them, especially if you play best of one. But still, nonetheless, it was definitely cool to watch, I think Grixis ended up winning, which is definitely cool. And I think the kid that won ended up losing his last round. He got kicked to 9-5, which was kind of on the fringe of possibly getting in. Ended up getting into the top four due to tiebreakers, and then ended up winning all of Worlds, which was definitely kind of cool to see. And then after Worlds, it looks like we're going to be getting Secret Lair into MTG Arena, I believe, starting this week on the 4th, which I believe is Thursday. So if you are someone who likes to, support Extra Life, you can use gems, which I guess they're converting somehow into a donation to Extra Life. I'm not 100% sure how that works, but it looks like you can buy this top row of sleeves in the shop once it starts from the 4th, I believe, until the 7th. And all the proceeds go and support, Extra Life. And these sleeves will be 1,200, which are definitely cool. The Birds of Paradise is definitely pretty sweet. The Dragon Queen is awesome. And then the Sliver Legion is also pretty cool. I just think it's kind of cool that they took the art from the kids that I think drew these drawings, and then they turned them into legit cool art that you can have on a card. So definitely pretty sweet there. On top of that, if you maybe not have that many gems, you can also use 600 gems to get the special Extra Life sleeve that has a Johnny on it. It says Extra Life, and then down in the corner says that it's for 2022. So it's still pretty awesome, nonetheless. If you're someone who likes to donate, to that type of stuff, I typically will go and buy at least this sleeve. I may purchase all of them just because I think all these sleeves are kind of cool and unique in their own way. And even though I may not use them, it's still just kind of I'm one of those people that like to have I like to have those kind of visual type things in case I decide to change my mind. This past Thursday, it looks like the pre-orders went live for Brothers War. There are two bundles like always. The first bundle is, the 50 packs. This time around, we're getting these things called Golden Packs. We're getting some Mishra cards as well, which I believe the two cards that you're getting in the 50 pack bundle are the pieces that you need to kind of like combine them together to make whatever it is, because this set is kind of interesting in the fact that you like, I know the Urza, you take the Urza and then the artifact, and then if you have both of them out, it turns into the Planeswalker. I think there's something similar with the ones that are in the Mishra pack, so definitely kind of interesting there. The golden packs are a new thing that they're just introducing now as well, and I'll dive into that in just a second, but definitely pretty cool if you're someone who's looking to pre-order Brothers War. I think this is a pretty interesting set so far based on what I saw over the past weekend. I know we're still in the process of going through spoiler season. We'll probably have all the spoilers over the course of the week after I post this video, just because it does go into pre-release not this weekend but the following weekend, so I'm sure before the pre-release there'll be everything spoiled. And then after that, on the 15th of November is when we get access to playing Brothers War in Arena, which is definitely going to be fun. This is a very artifact heavy set based on what I've seen so far. It does do a couple of things which I think are going to benefit standard. We'll get the other 5 pain lands in the colors we didn't get in Dominaria United, so definitely good there in case you play some of those other colors and you were kind of lacking on duels. We'll be getting those. I've seen a couple lands that are going to be definitely pretty interesting. I think the one land that stands out so far is Mishra's Factory, which is a land that they're reprinting, which is an overall pretty decent land. It'll be definitely kind of cool to see how it plays out in current standard, though it's a card that, it does hold some value from when it was last printed. And on top of that, we are getting Blast Zone back in the format, which is definitely another interesting land, as it is a land that kind of destroys things depending on how many counters are on it. This was in standard probably like 3 years ago, I think is the last time it was in standard, but still, nonetheless, it's a pretty effective board removal spell, as it's something you can charge counters onto and then eventually pop it and then destroy things on the battlefield. Outside of that, it's definitely going to be an interesting set. There are some things I think that they announced that will be legal in standard, but for some reason won't be legal in historic. I think I didn't see it anywhere, though I did see it during the world coverage. I believe Mishra's Bauble is a card that they announced for Brothers War. I saw the old art frame and everything. That's a card that is uncommon, that's fairly expensive, very heavy modern staple. It'll be interesting if that's actually in Brothers War as a standard legal card, whether or not that card's going to be as good as it is in modern, but it's definitely a card that is definitely pretty powerful, even though it doesn't seem like anything crazy for a 0 mana card. But yet again, like I said, as the week goes on, we'll get more and more information on what other cards will be in the set. There are some interesting mechanics as well, but I probably would do a separate video just diving into some of the mechanics and some of the cards that stand out to me in more detail. But moving on, the next thing that they talked about was the golden packs. And essentially, these are packs that you don't actually buy straight up. These are packs that you earn as you buy packs in the store. So if you are someone who buys packs, you will get these after every 10 packs you have bought. If you are someone who earns packs through, say, methods like drafting and things like that, unfortunately, those packs do not count towards the golden pack progress, which I guess to some people may be good or bad. But I do think, the people who typically do draft are the people who have a pretty big collection overall, just because they are people who, what you'll do is you'll draft a bunch of cards from a particular set. At some point, you'll end up with a bunch of, vault progress. You'll collect all the commons and uncommons. And really at that point, you just are going through drafts and you are collecting the packs from the drafts until you feel like you're at a place that you can just start cracking all the packs you opened from a draft. And then you'll kind of get the rest of the cards you're missing from that particular set. These are for like the people who may not like draft, I would say, and the only way they really get cards is they do purchases through the store. This is an interesting pack. It's a pack of 6 cards. You'll get 1 guaranteed mythic card from the set. You'll get 2 cards from the most recent set, unless you've already had the whole set complete, and then the other 3 cards in the set will be from random standard legal sets. So this is only a standard thing. But still, nonetheless, it's definitely kind of cool. I think this is kind of another experiment to see if this is another good method for people to collect, to help with their collection building, because I do think the problem in, Arena is always the economy with the wild cards. So, if on top of getting the progress for the wild cards, you'll also get progress for this every 10 packs you open. The downside is there are no wild cards in this, so you should strictly only get cards of mythic or rare quality. The other thing that's interesting too is, if you ever played games like Hearthstone, is that these packs will actually have a chance that outside the 1 guaranteed mythic, the other rares in the pack have a 1 in 8 chance of also being mythic. So it'll be kind of interesting to see how many packs it will take to kind of like one of those packs where you may have like 3 or 4 mythics on top of like the 2 or 3 rares that you have left in the pack. So definitely pretty cool there. And these do have duplicate protection, which is always a benefit. So definitely one of those things we'll kind of see overall. I mean, I think if I do the pre-order bundle, and then my typical normal pack buy, I should have probably about 15 of these packs. So I'll probably open up all the Brothers War first, and then I'll then open up all these afterwards. And I kind of want to see how how it fluctuates based on how much collection you have, because I actually have a pretty decent standard collection. And I kind of want to see, because I have a bunch of cards, I've almost completed almost every other set. Will I get other, will I get the mythic cards I'm missing from the sets that that's really all I'm missing at the moment. So definitely going to be one of those experiments. I'll do a deeper dive in once they're live in Arena. But still, nonetheless, definitely kind of a cool concept that they're testing out. People, I would say, depending on what kind of player you are, you may or may not like this system. But for now, being a person who buys packs, it's definitely going to be one of those things that it will be interesting to see how people enjoy. So I guess the final thing is like I said, we're in spoiler season for Brothers War. I guess there's about 90-ish cards revealed so far. There's some unique cards in general that they've announced in general. There's like a new ability that's called Prototype, where it's essentially a spell where you can pay less instead of paying the full cost. You get a weaker creature, but you still get the effect of the card, which is definitely pretty sweet. There are other things too. Like I said, there are lands, for example. This one creates a Power Stone. You can tap and add any mana. Definitely cool there. There's definitely some love for like soldiers. This card's a 2-mana 3/2 flyer that whenever you attack with 5 or more soldiers, creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain flying to end a turn. So definitely, some interesting stuff overall in the set. Like I said, I'll probably do a deeper dive once I kind of get the whole gist of what the set is going to offer. I just feel like because they're announcing it, every day you kind of get more and more cards announced for the set. It's kind of hard to dive in to. It's just much easier probably to break it down. Maybe just pull some of the cards I feel like right off the bat look like they're going to be really, really good. But still, nonetheless, it's definitely exciting. We are just another week away, or a week and a half away or so from it being live in Arena. And then we really get to see how powerful this set will be. Does it change up the meta overall? Does it really just kind of enhance some other decks that currently exist in the meta? That's the one thing that I do think we'll see. I do think we'll get a couple new decks out of this set. It's just going to be a matter of whether or not they're going to be powerful enough to take down what's at the top of the meta. And it's definitely one of those things, as we get more and more cards, it definitely allows people to experiment with other archetypes, because, as you have a very small standard set of 5 sets, once we get to like 6, you'll start seeing more decks that can perform very well, 7, even similar, and then 8, that's kind of like what we went through this summer, where there was a bunch of decks that were actually fairly good. But still, nonetheless, I'm excited for diving back into MTG Arena this month. I will, once I kind of get my router situation resolved, which I'm just waiting for a new router to be shipped to me, I will probably start doing some live streams. I believe every Tuesday and Thursday is when I'm going to be playing it, and then maybe the optional Saturday one, depending on whether or not I have anything happening on the weekend. I do think those will kind of replace videos being released on those days. And then on those live streams, we'll probably just go through a bunch of various things, whether it's just me playing a random deck that I'm trying to build, or maybe it's me doing drafts and things like that. It'll just be kind of a cool area for us to kind of hang out and kind of just see, kind of get some interaction outside of just leaving comments. And those things I will try to schedule out so you'll see them live on the channel. Kind of like a wait, you'll see like I'll be live on this day. There'll be like a thumbnail, and then at what time I'll be live roughly. So it's definitely gonna be one of those things. I'm excited. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below, what you think of what's happening in MTG Arena or just MTG in general the past week or so. Down in the comments below. If you like the video, hit that like button. Definitely helps out a lot. And if you're new here, you want to post new videos like this one here on the channel, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video. Just want to give a special shout out to the channel members here on my YouTube channel. You can also become a channel member yourself down below the video, hitting that join button. It definitely helps out a lot, and I just appreciate you guys for your support.